Hi everyone, welcome back to Coaching Session. This episode I'm joined by Sam Cox. Absolutely loved the interview with Sam. Unfortunately, we had a few technical issues, so it's going to look a little bit different, but sit back, enjoy, and look forward to seeing the comments in the section below. So Sam, look, I know you're a busy man right now. You're currently the head coach at Wealdstone, but I want to take you back to your playing days, back to when we were playing together at Tottenham Youth Team. How was that experience?
I look back at those early days at Spurs as some of my fondest memories. The cohort of players that we come up through the ranks with, and not to mention the coaches that we had, it was a very special time. One that I look back now, and especially being in an academy environment still at Tottenham, working with the young players now, I look at how fortunate we was just to be in and around such an elite environment with elite specialists, all pushing in the right direction, which enabled us all to go on and have careers at different levels. But so many great memories, and even this conversation that we're having today, so many good friendships that were made that will last forever. So I look back at that time as, some of the best memories of my life.
The youth team was extremely successful. You went on to have a professional career. I went on to have a professional career. We were in the same youth team with Harry Kane, Ryan Mason, Andros Townsend. We had obviously Danny Rose, Carl Walker, Carl Norton joining us a few years older as well.
Yeah.
How much of you do you think that was down to the coaching environment that John McDermott, Alex Ep.04, Chris Ramsey put together?
I certainly think it was a combination of the two coming together at the right time. I think that it does happen every couple of years where you get a freak group, and some academies never have that. And I just think at that time it kind of galvanized and all erupted at the same time, having the special coaches that we did, the names that you mentioned. We had Bradley Allen below, Perry Suckling, not to mention when I first came in, Martin Yole was the gaffer, and he'd introduced the skills coach Ricardo Moniz. So I would say that our group was special, and a lot of that was because of the coaching environment and the standards that were set by John and Alex, Chris Ramsey, that filtered down. And you look back at that time at how professional we were, even as schoolboys.
So when you stepped away from Tottenham to go on loan, firstly, how different was it for you to adapt? Because you're in an environment at Tottenham where it's not quite as what it is today, but most things were done for us, right? We were still allowed to wash the boots. I remember I had Woodgate, and I was cleaning Woodgate's, but that was a special part. I know today it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
But we were still blessed, right? We were still very fortunate at Tottenham, great pitches, great facilities. So then when you go on loan, you've been on loan a couple of times, Cheltenham, Torquay, how did you find that adapting to first team football?
My first loan was at Cheltenham. So Martin Allen was the gaffer, obviously cousin of Bradley Allen and Clive. I get to Cheltenham, first time going on loan, first time doing that long drive on my own as well. I think I hadn't long passed my driver's test. I remember the assistant manager, Scoey, I actually came against him the other day at Scunthorpe. He was the assistant manager. And he said, Coxie, wait outside. The boys going to have a team meeting, and Gaffer's going to come and introduce himself now. Martin Allen's come out. Coxie, nice to meet you. Good to have you on board. Just wait out here whilst I address the team, and then I'm going to introduce you. And when I tell you to come into the door, you're going to come in. So I'm waiting outside now. 5 minutes goes past. 10 minutes goes by. I think, when's he going to introduce me to the group? I'm just like a young, skinny 18-year-old coming on loan for the first time. Anyway, doors. He said, Coxie, come in. Music started playing Bob Marley. No Woman, No Cry. And he's like, he goes, everybody, welcome Bob Marley to the group. I had the long hair back. He's like, welcome Coxie. Yeah, it's Bob Marley, the Ross Clark, Bumba Clark's here. I'm my days. Is this what I'm in for, man? Like my first loan. This is my first introduction of being at a football league club, and Martin Allen's introducing me as Bob Marley. I think might be the first or second session we're doing team shape, and I've gone to get the ball from the goalkeeper, as we would in Spurs as a young deep line midfielder. Gone to get the ball from the goalie, and I turned and tried to play a pass into midfield. Stop the session. He go, no, don't do any of that tippy-tappy stuff that you do at Tottenham. You get the ball and you get it to the quick players up front. That's all I want you to do. Just put it up front. That's all you need to do. So I think straight away I knew what I was in for, and had to adapt pretty quickly, but that was tough. That was my first real learning of men's football. But I've learned a lot from Martin. Martin's personable skills were great, and I know sometimes some people might say he's a bit like Marmite. You either love him or you hate him. I love Martin. I really got on with him, but I've certainly taken bits from his man management style. But I think society has changed, environments have changed. Understanding young players, knowing how to talk to them, and doing my foundations through grassroots all the way up through the under nines up to the 16s at Spurs. I think now communication is so different. I think banter is certainly a lot different to what it was 15, 20 years ago when we were coming through. And it's a lot more, I guess, because I'm a young manager as well. I think I try to be more personable and try to relate to the boys a little bit more so, and maybe not introducing them as Bob Marley like Martin Allen did to me.
What would it look like? Like, give us an insight. So, the phone rings. You've got the option to take these boys on loan. Do you speak to the players before they come in? Do you meet them? How does it look like? Talk us through the process, between signing them and then introducing them to the team. What goes on in between?
It's funny, we even talk about like the difference in eras. The signing that we made with young Alfie Massey, who came in from Millwall, he actually DM'd me on Instagram to make the initial introduction. And, I knew about the boy anyway because he comes with a good reputation. Our club had contacted Millwall. Is it okay to have permission to speak to him? Yeah, gave the boy a call. What you doing? How you getting on during pre-season? Been watching your games, come to a few of your games, seen you've been with the first team. Then asked him a little bit about him and his personality, because I think that's big for me and massive, and the type of player that I wanted in the building. I was very big on characters, very big on personalities. Got him in on loan off the back of that, and straight away you can see that the type of character and player he is, like brave to get on the ball. I try to encourage players to be brave, bold in the system that I like, and the methodology, you have to be comfortable on the ball, but also have that grit. When the ball turns over and in transition, you have to be dogged as well. So he showed that in abundance in the first session, I think it was, and straight away the senior players look over and you're like, yeah, this is a good one. So I think you earn the trust of the players straight away. And not only that, the trust of the manager as well, to know that the players that he's bringing in, they're okay, they're decent, they're competent enough in and out of possession, and most importantly, they're good people.
I want to take you to back a little bit to Oxford City, and you'd had a really successful stint at Wealdstone as interim manager. You then go and sign for Oxford City. How important was it that summer, where you've got a whole window to recruit, that you got it right? And did you feel pressure, when the players were on the pitch? How did you deal with that process?
Certainly, I think recruitment is the single-handedly most important part of your managerial tenure. I think getting that right is everything. The players that you bring into the building, the impression it creates to the existing players, the impression it creates to the board, directors, and the fans. I think it's the most important thing, without a shadow of a doubt. And, I, like you say, going back to my time at Oxford, knowing they'd just been relegated from the National League with the lowest points tally, I think in history that they'd accumulated, going into National League North was always going to be a tough decision. But me being bold and enthusiastic and wanting to put myself in uncomfortable situations for me to grow as a manager, I thought, you know what, it's a good opportunity. It's a good club. The chairman pitched a really good project, and I took it on. I was told I was, having a certain amount of budget to bring in players, but most of that budget had gone on the existing players that were retained from the season before. There was, I think, maybe 10, 11 players that had been retained from the following season that were all on decent money and decent wages. So I probably wasn't able to bring in the players that I would have liked. We had players that were literally playing for expenses, and I ended up coming out of that job after 9 league games. I think it was 10, 11 games in total. And it was really disappointing. It cut me, to be honest. It was really tough, because what people don't see is the hours that you put in. Well, you was on the phone to me during that time. And I was constantly trying to work and get recruitment right and man manage, session plan, do everything the right way, trying to bring the professional habits that I'd inherited from Tottenham into that environment and almost change the culture. That was very difficult. And as you know, to do that over 9 games, 2 months is near enough impossible. So, results weren't correlating onto the pitch, but I knew in my head that if the boys had continued working at it, we would have got there. I learned an awful lot, not just in terms of recruitment and type of profile player I wanted to accumulate and inherit into my sides, but also had to adapt in knowing that next time I had a job, how would my style of play and my methodology have to tweak and differ, because I almost took so many elements from the Spurs model, what I'd learned, my learning, and, you know, added my bits on top. Was that maybe too much for that level? Did I need to adapt? Did I need to go for more physical profiles? Did I need to go to a more direct style? When the phone did call during the summer and Wealdstone did pop up, I knew that taking that opportunity, I knew exactly what type of player I wanted, exactly what style of football I'd be going to play, and so much more clear and bold in what I wanted to do and how that would come across. So, you know, I'd like to think that we tried to put that in place so far, and we'll see where it takes us.
Do you feel that there's a big difference between academy football and non-league football? The players are, I'm guessing, working during the day and then coming to training in the evening. So how difficult is it in, what did you have, 2 or 3 sessions a week to implement your ideas?
It's a great question. I certainly think when you're in the academy and it's drilled into you, and these boys are getting that methodology from the age of, I guess it's getting dripped in from the age of 9. So by the time they get to 14, 15, 16, it's seamless to them. It's natural. Whereas, like you say, when you only have access to the players 2-3 times a week, trying to implement those ideas, do that on the grass, and then try and get that into practice on the match days, it's very difficult. But I think what I've done is, obviously I've got Liam Badcock with me, and I've taken him wherever I've gone. He was with me at Spurs, brought him to the national team, Guyana, Oxford, and Wealdstone now. He's analysis, now working at Arsenal, and I think it's really important that the boys see the visual. And they get as many ideas as possible in the analysis room, take that onto the grass, and it's just trying to drum it into them and make it habitual. It's not easy. Like you say, we do have limited access, but I think you have to have correlating consistent messages throughout each practice that you do, and I'm really big on that, whether that be boxes, possession, technical practice. Everything that you do is geared towards the game model. And maybe the type of language that you use. I think the academy language is different to what you translate sometimes to a first team environment. And the way you talk to the boys and the way you deliver messages, I think, is the most important thing. I'd like to think I'm a lot more clearer in my delivery and a lot more concise with structured practices throughout sessions, throughout pre-season. And I think the evidence and proof is there that if the players are given consistent messages, they can take it on board even at National League level. So yeah, let's see where it takes us.
You've had over 300 career appearances. You've also represented the Guyana national team, where you've been captain, not only represented them, you've been captain, you've been assistant manager there as well. Alongside all of this, you somehow found time to work being a coach. How have you done that? I mean, what licenses did you have, and how did you find the time to be able to do that alongside your playing career?
I think it all started when I slipped out the Football League. So I just come out of Barnet, 2 years at the football club, and not really establishing my place in the side. Really difficult 2 years. And after those 2 years, you know, I think towards the end of the season, went on loan to Boreham Wood, and following that, ended up dropping out and getting released and not getting offered a contract. And unfortunately, there was only one place that was going, and that was non-league. Not ideal at all. And I think during that time, the likes of yourself were breaking through to the first team at Spurs. Obviously, Harry, Andros, Ryan Mason, all these boys were like doing so well, all of our age group. And there was me finding it hard to establish myself in League Two and slipping out into non-league. So it was a really difficult period, to be honest, Steve. Mentally, it was tough. You know, you always want your friends to do well. We was, you know, meeting up all the time at a weekend. I'd see you and you'd be telling me he was with the first team. It's great, you know, but me, on the other hand, I was struggling. And, you know, I signed at Hayes and Yeading, I think it was, off the back of Barnet. I'd done a season there, and, you know, I got player of the year, and thought that, you know, maybe that was my moment to then get back into the Football League. There was talk of me going to Sheffield United and Portsmouth, and never materialised. Then went to Scotland. The contract that I was offered was really poor, and, you know, I ended up having to sign again back in National League South. It was at Boreham Wood the following season. And I knew the money that I was getting paid at that level wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed to fill my time. I was now going to part-time environment in non-league, and all I'd known was being a pro at Spurs and then going into Barnet. And I just wanted to be a professional, be full-time. So it was actually at the time I picked up my phone and I spoke to the likes of Chris Ramsey and John Mack, and I said, look, I want to do something. What can I do? And John always was encouraging me to, do my badges, and he was actually very big when I got released to Spurs to do my badges and get on that. I said, John, I'm going to be a pro. Like, don't worry about it. I don't need coaching just yet. And funny enough, 4 years later, I'm picking the phone up, asking him, what next? So he allowed me to do my badges with the youth team who were doing their level 2 at the time. I never finished it off at Spurs because I went on loan to Torquay at the time. So I've gone back to the club. I've done my level 2 badge with Trevor Webb, John, got my level 2 done. And in the time I was doing that, I was going in of an evening and working with the under-16s with Justin Cochran, who's now the assistant to Thomas Franker, funnily enough. I'd never wanted to be a coach. That was never in the plan. But as I'm doing more and more sessions, seeing these coaches, how good they are, and the encouragement from John, well, actually, I can do this. Marrying it alongside my part-time football. So I'd go into Spurs of a Monday evening with the under-16s. I'd train or play with Bournemouth on Tuesday. Wednesday, I'd be with the under-16s again. Thursday, I'd train at Bournemouth. Friday, I'd be off, I'd do my own bits. Saturday, I would go into Spurs in the morning and then travel to my game wherever that may be. And, going back to it, I started developing, a desire and a love and a passion to help young players, and also developing, my coaching style. John Mack, he was very big, and I'm sure he's probably told you, starting from the very bottom, he said, no, I don't want to give you an academy job straight away. I'm not just going to give you under 15s or 16s. You start from the very bottom. Worked for the Tottenham Hotspur Foundation for 7 years, going into schools of SEN, working with disabilities, brain damage, autism, blindness, you name it. I'd work with all spectrums of players, all different levels. And I did that for 2 years before John Mack said, all right, here's the under-9s. You've got the under-9s to work with. Done the under-9s. Next season, moved me up to the 11s. Following that, moved me up to the under-15s, which I did with Bradley Allen for a long period. And whilst doing that, done my A licence, still playing, still trying to chase the dream of getting back in the Football League. Always reaching and scratching and clawing to get there, but never quite really having that moment that got me back into the Football League. But in the midst of it, I'm still developing my ideas and identity as a coach, and done my A licence. And then I had that sustained period working with the 15s and 16s at Spurs. So it's a long old journey, but yeah, I had so many, great memories coaching and playing at the same time. And probably look back at that young Coxie that dropped out the Football League at 21, 22, where I was so, I guess, in a place where I really didn't want to do it. I was down, I was sad. And, looking back at it now, you go through that journey, you think, do you know what? It's probably the best thing I ever done, dropping into non-league, building that identity, coaching style, getting my badges done really early. So now, at 34, I can go into a national league club with an identity, crystal clear in the way I want to do things, and with the qualifications as well, the A licence, AYA. And yeah, I just realised now as a, older person and more mature that everything was happening for a reason during that time. So yeah, it's a lot more clearer now.
It's extremely powerful and inspiring, because although we've been good friends, I still didn't know as much in as much detail as you've just shared there. So I really appreciate that, and I'm sure our listeners can as well, because a lot of young coaches that are listening who are working part-time in academy struggle to see the route all the way to where you're at now as a manager, and you explaining there in such detail the amount of work and time and effort you put in is a credit to you and also inspiration for others. So we appreciate you sharing. So you've spoken quite a bit about how important the consistency is with your team. You've spoken a bit about how important it is that you get these messages across. What does a week look like for you? Let's take you to, you've just finished the game on a Saturday, you've got a midweek game on a Tuesday, and then you're playing again on the following Saturday. What would that week look like for you?
Yeah, so the players are contracted at Wealdstone to do 3 training days a week. Plus, obviously dependent on the 2 match days where they come, if we have a 2-day match week or if it's a 1-day match week. So the week would be periodized according to that, but we would still try and get the 3 sessions in. So, for example, if we had a Tuesday, Saturday game model week, it would be trained on a Monday morning. We'd play the game on a Tuesday. Wednesday, the boys would have off. And we would train probably either on Thursday or Friday. And we would probably go by the metrics and what the boys have done, if it would be, in the benefit to do a, plus recovery or go straight to a match day -1 on a Friday. If there was no midweek, we have Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday off, and we train Thursday evening. 2 different locations. We train at Brunel University on the Monday and Tuesday, and we train at a school in Hertfordshire on the Thursday. So yeah, it differs depending on the game week. It has its challenges, but we try and get as much into those boys during that time. Of course, when you've got a 2-day game week, it becomes a lot lower in terms of physical load and the stuff that we do on the grass. Naturally, we've got an S&C that we work with, Luke Malloy and Ethan Brewer, who are brilliant in terms of telling us what metrics we need to cover during a particular session. But we make sure we do it right. So there's injury prevention programs. We have gym every time we're in. Unfortunately, we have access to high quality facilities with the gym. So the boys are in the gym every session. I think since pre-season, we haven't missed a day of gym. So even on a match day -1, they are doing something. We always have analysis as well with, like I say, Liam Badcock, who's marrying up his job with Arsenal at the moment. So we try and make it as a professional and elite environment as possible, with the periodization that we have and the game week that we have. So it's not ideal, but we do the best with the resource that we've been given, and we make sure that it's as professional an environment as we can make it for the boys to see that these are the standards. This is what we're doing. Everything is geared towards the game model and a match day. We can do it as properly and as professionally as we can. And I've tried to implement that from day one, and it seems to be working. It's tough for a lot of the players to adapt to even a 3-day week. Maybe some have come from full-time models, some have come from part-time models. But the way that we do it in terms of the conditioning, the physical robustness, and the IP program, some of these would never have done that before. So their bodies have had to adapt through pre-season. But now they're almost in a rhythm and a flow of doing it. So it's habitual. Now you can see the results are coming on the pitch, the ground that they're covering during a match. They've certainly increased since pre-season. The club have synonymously been known the last couple of years to pick up injuries at crucial times during the season. So when I came in, I was really big on implementing the injury prevention program. It seems to be working so far. Players are a lot more physically robust at dealing with demands of the National League. And it is a ruthless division, Steve. It is so tough, and people don't realise how tough it actually is, especially when you've got a 2-match working week. Some of these players have got jobs on top of what they're doing. So they're working after training in the morning, or working in the morning and training in the evening. They're having to do the physical load, which we're asking them to do. We don't have no international breaks, so they go on throughout the whole, you're playing sometimes a 50-plus game season with all cup competitions. So it is a relentless league, and the quality's picking up every year. This division's getting better, and I'm seeing it, and it is an extension of the Football League. I don't think there's much difference, especially the top half of the National League and League Two for sure. So yeah, it's tough, but we're getting through it, and we're very structured in everything that we do.
Sam, thank you so much for your insight today. It's been absolutely incredible to listen to your journey, and I wish you all the best moving forward with Wealdstone.
Thank you, bro. Love you, man.